is Unmuted, your monthly marketing newsreel. I am your host, Rachel Moore, otherwise known as Rachel Has the Mic everywhere online, and I am the CEO of But Wait, There's More. Enough about me. Let's dive into this month's topics. First up, marketing. I'm going to call this to meme or not to meme. That is the brand question. If you have been living under a rock the last 24 hours, you don't know about the couple, the CEO and chief people officer from the company Astronomer, who were caught basically in an affair-laden embrace at a Coldplay concert when they did a kiss cam across the auditorium. So unfortunately, they got called out and someone was taking a video, shared it, and now their affair is outed. And that has been well, it's not all the internet is talking about, but has certainly been at the crest of the tidal wave. The question I pose to you and that we want to discuss quickly is, should brands or should your business jump on that tidal wave when a meme or an internet sensation or story like that starts climbing up the tidal wave? I'm going to boldly say that unless your brand really has some tie into affairs, marital affairs, or cheating or anything like that, or even kiss cams. Maybe sit this kind of thing out. Let the individuals of the internet have their day and go make all the memes, the spin-off memes, the jokes that everybody likes to partake of when something like this happens. What we've seen instead, and we always see, is that brands feel like, well, we need to be on the tidal wave no matter what. Let's go ahead and comment on it. If you have a social media or marketing team worth their experience and value, they will see these things go across the internet. They're already asking, does this align with our brand at all? Is there any chance that we won't be cringy if we do decide to play off of whatever's happening? They're already asking that question. If you have to do mental gymnastics to get there, you probably shouldn't post about it. But you also have a time limit, because I'll tell you straight up, and this is very anecdotal, admittedly, but once that situation hits 36 hours on the internet, anything after that is completely cringy and late, unless you just have a brand new take about it or there's new news developing about it. So a good rule to follow is maybe default to no, we're not going to post about it. You can certainly go comment, but even that has a chance of getting cringe reactions. Now you may be asking, well, don't we want any reactions? Isn't any press good press? Again, depends on your brand. Are you Wendy's? Then you're not going to care. If you're a financial firm that really cares about looking straight-laced, buttoned up and everything, probably not for you. You need to make that decision, but your best bet is to defer to maybe not participating and just letting it happen. And certainly all of the individuals in your company are probably going to be talking about it on any Zoom call or demo or anything they're having with anybody. It'll come up naturally anyway. Let them shine in those moments. You don't need to try to outshine the moment on your own brand marketing. So that's the latest for the marketing. Let's move on to something that relates to trust, which is a big pillar here, maybe the pillar for But Wait, There's More. Every year, the Edelman Trust Barometer comes out in 2025. It is now out. I highly encourage anyone who's listening or watching this to go download it. It's free. This year, the subtitle of it is Trust and the Crisis of Grievance, which if you look around yourselves nowadays, that might really resonate. The link will be in the show description, but some really quick, too long didn't reads on this. First of all, they surveyed 33,000 respondents in 28 countries, and there were about 1,150 respondents per country. So that gives you kind of a who they were talking to. Basically, the crux of it is, if you're wealthy, if you're a leader, and or if you're an employer, you've got some trust earning to do. And it recommends the best way to do that, especially if you're an employer or a business leader, is through well-paid jobs and skill improvement to your employees. Job security, according to the report, worsened across the board. Employer trust went way down, meaning employees are far less likely to trust their employers. And again, if you're keeping your finger on the pulse of the job market right now, that might make sense. Grievance is, as alluded to in the subtitle of the report, Grievance is a main thread throughout the lack of trust. People are feeling grievance, low, medium, high levels of that. It's being stoked by fear and results in an us against them mentality where people get very clutchy saying, I need what I can get. And if anyone else that doesn't believe the way I believe gets what I think I should get, grievance occurs and anger. They always measure two groups that tend to they focus on in the trust barometer: government, media, NGOs, and business. Interestingly, after what I just said, business was the only one of those entities that was able to land in the quadrant of both competent and ethical. NGOs, media, and government was way the lowest on the other side of incompetent and unethical. And I want to leave with this. There is so much in the report. I really recommend you take a look at it. They've got all the data in there as well if you're a wonky person, but the final thought to rest on it is that influence is earned through compassion, not power. So if any of you are wondering, well, Rachel, you said if I'm wealthy and or a leader and or an employer, how do I do this? I think you lead with compassion instead of power. And if that's a muscle you're not used to using, it's time to start working out. Okay. So that's the Edelman Trust Report, but also my own take on that from the data that it provides. Finally, in the world of podcasting, there's some interesting things that you might want to be aware of, particularly if you're a business podcast or have a business podcast and are wanting to measure the effect and the impact that podcast has on your business. The share of ear study from Edison Research shows that time spent with podcasts has increased, this going from 2015 to 2025, so a 10-year difference. So in 2015, the time spent with podcasts collectively was 170 million hours per week. It's a lot of hours in 1 week. That has grown in 10 years too. 773 million hours per week that people spend their time on podcasts with. Whoa. Over the last 10 years, that's a 355% increase in time across the United States. So if you have listeners in the United States, if you're a business that works with or is based out of the United States, now's probably the time to go ahead and get that podcast out of your brain and into people's earbuds. I can help with that, but I digress. Also, an interesting stat: podcasts with at least one new episode in the last week. So think about podcasts you listen to. They probably publish to a certain cadence. If they're weekly, they're publishing once a week without fail. If they're daily, they're publishing every day. Like, you know when to go in and you're like, well, I usually expect that podcast episode right now. So let's just take weekly. Podcasts with at least one new episode in the last week. This might blow your mind a little bit. 177,000 and change. Now, you might think of podcasting as a very saturated channel. Sure, a lot of podcasts out there. But the question is, are they all updating with a new episode on a frequent basis or even a regular basis? That answer seems to be maybe not. And this is what I had realized and found last year, was that there are a whole lot of stagnant podcasts out there. I think it was about 80% of the podcasts on Apple Podcasts do not upload new episodes. They're old. So it may feel saturated, but new episodes, not so much. So guess what? You've got a good chance of getting out there and breaking through the noise just by being consistent with your podcast. Finally, I'll leave you with this. This is a completely selfish play that if any of you can help me with this. Alan Tudyk, who's one of my favorite actors. He's a character actor. He's a voice actor. You may know him as playing droids. He was actually Gary, the droid or I think he's Thor in the Superman movie. And he's in a bunch of other stuff. My favorite is that he plays Wash in the TV series Firefly, as well as the movie Serenity. He and Nathan Fillion are very good friends, and they are planning to start a podcast. And I know this not from the news necessarily that came out about it, but I was in the front row at Fan Expo Denver when he announced it from his panel to the audience. So I want to produce his podcast. I did shoot my shot on Threads. He's on Threads, and I tagged him and I said, hey, the news is out there. Everybody's talking about your podcast, and I would like to produce it. I'm a nerd, and I promise I'll keep my nerding out. And I said, never mind, I can't not nerd out if it's you and Nathan, but I would help you do that. So That's my own personal plug. Would love to help them produce that podcast. I'd love to help produce your podcast as well. Reach out to me if you need to, Rachel at butwaitthere'smore.com. And my website is butwaitthere'smore, MOORE.com. That's where you can find all the things you need to get in touch with me. I hope you found this newsreel interesting. All of the links are in the show description on YouTube. This whole thing is a newsreel because I hate writing newsletters. There you go. Have a great rest of your month. We'll see you next month for the next edition of Unmuted, your monthly marketing newsreel by yours truly.